The beginning of all inner mastery lies in the understanding that the mind is not something you must fight, suppress, or defeat. The mind is something you must learn to observe. Most people spend their entire lives reacting to their thoughts without realizing that thoughts have no true authority unless they are given power. A fear appears and the person feels fear. A doubt appears and the person becomes doubtful. A negative memory rises and suddenly the present moment becomes colored by the past. The reason this happens is simple. They have never been taught to create space between the mind and the self. They have never learned to watch their thoughts without becoming them. To observe your mind is to step into a deeper awareness, a space where clarity and control begin to rise naturally. When you sit quietly and pay attention to the flow of thoughts, you will notice something profound. Thoughts come and go, but you remain. Thoughts rise and disappear, but something within you stays constant. That something is your true presence, the awareness that is not shaken by emotion, not disturbed by fear, not weakened by imagination. This presence is your greatest strength, and it awakens the moment you stop obeying your mind blindly and start watching it with curiosity. Imagine sitting by the side of a river. Leaves float by one after another. Some are beautiful, some are dirty, some are heavy, some are light. You do not jump into the river to chase the leaves or push them away. You simply watch them pass. This is how thought observation works. The mind produces ideas, fears, memories, and sensations, just like the river produces leaves. You are not required to chase them. You are not required to fight them. You are only required to observe them. In the beginning, this practice may feel challenging because people are used to believing every thought the mind produces. If the mind says, "You cannot do this," they accept it. If the mind says, "You are not good enough," they surrender. If the mind says, "Something bad will happen," they panic. But once you begin observing the mind, a shift occurs. You realize this is just a thought. It has no weight unless I give it weight. It has no meaning unless I accept the meaning. With this insight, fear loses its grip. Doubt loses its sharpness. Worry loses its ability to control you. When you observe the mind, you create distance. And in this distance lies your freedom. The mind itself is not the enemy. It is simply a tool. But when a tool becomes the master, chaos follows. Thoughts will pull you in many directions. One moment you feel motivated, the next moment discouraged. One moment confident, the next fearful. One moment peaceful, the next anxious. This fluctuation is natural for an unobserved mind. When you are unaware, the mind becomes noisy, reactive, and unsettled. But when you watch the mind, the restlessness gradually dissolves. The storm begins to settle, the waves grow calmer. What remains is clarity, a powerful clarity that allows you to act intentionally rather than react emotionally. Observation brings understanding. Understanding brings mastery. When you observe your thoughts without judgment, you begin to notice patterns. You recognize the triggers that create fear. You understand the moments when the mind becomes louder. You see how certain memories try to dominate the present. And with this awareness, you become capable of choosing your response. This ability to choose is the foundation of inner strength. Without it, fear takes advantage of your unconscious reactions. With it, fear has no foothold. True observation is not about controlling the mind through force. You are not trying to push thoughts away or silence them violently. You are simply watching, allowing the mind to speak, and at the same time staying rooted in the knowing that you are not the voice speaking. You are the one listening. This shift from identification to observation transforms your relationship with fear dramatically. Fear only has strength when you believe it is you. When you realize it is only a thought passing through the mind, fear becomes smaller. Sometimes it disappears completely. Many people say they want to control their mind, but control is not the first step. The first step is awareness. You cannot control what you cannot see. You cannot change what you do not recognize. Awareness brings the mind into the light. And in the light, fear cannot hide. It becomes visible, understandable, and eventually manageable. When you practice observing your thoughts daily, the mind gradually becomes your ally rather than your master. Instead of reacting to every thought, you learn to respond with intention. Instead of being pushed around by fear, you begin to stand steady, watching the emotion rise and fall without being dominated by it. This creates a remarkable inner shift, a shift from being controlled to becoming in control. Observation also reveals the temporary nature of fear. When you remain still and simply watch, you will notice that fear rises, peaks, and falls. It never stays permanently. But most people never allow fear to complete its cycle because they react instantly. They panic, they resist. They try to escape, and in resisting the emotion, they feed it. But when you observe fear silently, without resisting, it runs out of energy. It dissolves on its own, just like a flame without fuel. There is a timeless wisdom in stillness. When you become silent within, the mind gradually follows. The stiller you are, the clearer the mind becomes, and clarity naturally leads to courage. Fear cannot dominate a mind that is clear. Fear cannot manipulate a mind that is aware. Fear cannot mislead a mind that is deeply observed. Observation is not weakness, it is rooted strength. It is the strength of someone who is patient enough to look inward, disciplined enough to hold attention steady, and wise enough to understand that inner mastery begins with understanding, not conflict. When you practice observing your mind, you are training yourself to stay conscious in every moment. Conscious when fear arises, conscious when doubt appears, conscious when old memories try to distract you. This consciousness is your weapon and your shield. It protects you from being carried away by fear, and it empowers you to remain calm even in uncertainty. To observe your mind is to reclaim your life. It means you are no longer controlled by invisible forces. You are no longer a prisoner of anxiety. You are no longer someone who reacts blindly. You become someone who responds with intention, someone who thinks clearly, someone who acts with wisdom. In time, this practice transforms not only your mind but your entire presence. You walk differently, you breathe differently, you speak differently, you handle challenges with stability instead of panic. You look at fear with calm eyes instead of running from it. You rise with a confidence that is quiet, grounded, and unshakable. And all of it begins with one simple step. Observe your mind. The moment you stop being controlled by your thoughts and start watching them from a place of awareness, you reclaim your power. You return to your center. You rise above the noise. You move beyond fear. From this space, life opens. Possibilities expand, strength awakens, the journey of inner mastery starts, and the mind becomes your ally, not your obstacle. Discipline is not something reserved for a few special individuals. It is a quality that lives within every human being, waiting to be awakened. The mind becomes strong the same way the body becomes strong, through consistent training, deliberate practice, and repeated exposure to challenge. No one becomes mentally powerful by accident. It is the result of daily choices, small decisions, and silent commitments that most people never see. The strength you seek does not appear from motivation alone. It emerges from discipline, from a willingness to train the mind even when you do not feel like it. To train the mind is to train your inner landscape, the space where your thoughts, emotions, and reactions are born. Each breath you take, each moment you bring attention back to yourself, each step you take with intention becomes a part of this training. A person who seeks mastery must understand that there is no separation between the mind and the body. The mind influences the body, and the body influences the mind. If your breath is shallow, your thoughts become hurried. If your posture is collapsed, your emotions weaken. If your focus is scattered, fear finds a place to grow. Therefore, the path to mental strength begins with the discipline of breath, body, and focus. Breath is the anchor of the mind. When your breathing becomes calm, the restlessness of the mind begins to soften. When your breathing becomes deep, the noise within begins to settle. There is a direct link between the rhythm of your breath and the rhythm of your thoughts. When fear rises, the breath becomes fast. When doubt appears, the breath becomes tight. But when you consciously slow down and guide your breath with intention, fear loses its foundation. You are telling your mind, there is no danger here, I am safe. And when the mind feels safe, it becomes clear. Breath discipline is the first step toward mastering your internal world. Next comes the discipline of focus. The modern mind is scattered, constantly moving from one thought to another. It jumps from fear to desire, from memory to fantasy, from worry to distraction. A mind without discipline behaves like a wild animal. It reacts to everything, but a disciplined mind is like a trained warrior. It does not waste attention. It does not follow every impulse. It chooses where to stay. Focus is not something you develop in one day. It is strengthened through repeated practice, through bringing your awareness back to the present moment again and again, even when the mind tries to wander. Each time you bring your attention back, you are sharpening the blade of your mind. You are teaching it to stay steady even in uncertainty. The discipline of the body is equally important. Your physical posture influences your mental state more than most people realize. When you stand upright, with the spine tall and the chest open, your emotions change. Your thoughts become more confident. Your energy becomes more grounded. When your posture collapses, your thoughts follow. The body is the physical expression of your inner world. Training the body trains the mind. Whether it is through martial practice, exercise, stretching, or simply learning to stand with strength, you are teaching your mind to remain stable. You are telling your nervous system, I am ready, I am present, I am strong. Discipline is not about perfection. It is not about forcing yourself to be strong at all times. It is about consistency, a willingness to return again and again to your practice, even when you feel tired, distracted, or afraid. This returning builds resilience. This returning builds inner peace. This returning builds courage. Most people wait for the right mood to train their mind, but the right mood rarely comes. Strength begins when you train without waiting for motivation. Discipline grows when you continue even without inspiration. The mind must be shaped intentionally. If you do not train it, it will train itself in the direction of fear, worry, and doubt. The undisciplined mind gravitates toward negativity because it is easier. Fear requires no effort. Worry requires no effort. Doubt requires no effort. But calmness requires effort. Focus requires effort. Stability requires effort. This effort is discipline, and discipline is the path to mastery. Training the mind is not only an internal practice. It must be supported through daily actions in the external world. Waking up with intention, eating with awareness, walking with presence, working with focus. These are all forms of discipline. They strengthen your mental muscles. They teach your mind to stay steady. Every action taken with mindfulness becomes a training session. Over time, these actions accumulate. They build a reservoir of strength you can rely on during moments of fear. When fear appears, the disciplined mind does not collapse. It does not run. It does not panic. It observes, breathes, adjusts, and responds. A disciplined mind remains calm even when emotions rise. It remains clear even when uncertainty arrives. This calmness is not accidental. It is earned. It is the result of breath awareness, focus training, and body discipline repeated over days, months, and years. Discipline also teaches you control over impulses. The mind often reacts based on habit, not wisdom. When you feel discomfort, you want to escape. When you feel fear, you want to avoid. When you feel doubt, you want to withdraw. But discipline teaches you to pause, to breathe, to choose a response instead of reacting blindly. This ability to pause is one of the greatest strengths a human being can develop. In this pause lies freedom. In this pause lies intelligence. In this pause lies transformation. A disciplined mind becomes simple. It does not create unnecessary stories. It does not imagine dangers that do not exist. It does not waste energy on thoughts that do not serve. It stays grounded in what is real, focused on what matters, and aligned with what is essential. Simplicity brings peace. Peace brings clarity. Clarity brings strength. Over time, you will notice that discipline changes your relationship with fear entirely. Fear no longer appears as a threat, but as a signal, a message telling you that you are about to grow. A disciplined mind does not run from fear. It expands through it. Even when the mind feels the presence of fear, it remains still, guided by breath, grounded by body, and strengthened by focus. Discipline is a path of self-respect. When you show up for yourself daily, something within you begins to trust you. You develop confidence not based on external achievements, but based on an inner knowing that you are committed to growth. The world may change, circumstances may shift, uncertainty may appear, but your discipline remains. This consistency becomes your anchor. The beauty of discipline is that it transforms silently. No one sees the hours you spend training your breath, sharpening your focus, strengthening your posture, calming your reactions. No one sees the internal battles you win, but these invisible victories create visible strength. People begin to sense something different in you. A calmness, a steadiness, a quiet confidence, a presence that is grounded and unshakable. This is the strength born from discipline. Through training the mind daily, patiently, consistently, intentionally, you are shaping a version of yourself capable of moving through life with clarity and courage. You become someone who remains calm in difficulty, focused in chaos, and strong in uncertainty. You become someone who does not wait for the world to be peaceful in order to feel peace. Instead, you carry the peace within you. The disciplined mind does not escape life. It meets life fully. It does not hide from challenges. It grows through them. It does not fear discomfort. It accepts it as part of the journey. Every moment becomes training. Every challenge becomes an opportunity. Every day becomes a step toward mastery. This is the essence of training the mind, not through force, not through pressure, but through consistent practice, silent discipline, and a deep commitment to becoming stronger than the fear that once controlled you. Fear is often misunderstood as a sign of weakness, but it is actually a mirror that reflects the parts of your mind you have not yet mastered. When fear rises, It is not trying to stop you, it is trying to show you something. It is pointing toward an area of life where your strength is still asleep. Many people run from fear because they believe it is dangerous, but what is truly dangerous is avoiding the very experiences that can expand you. If you learn to approach fear instead of escaping it, you will discover that it holds the doorway to your next level of growth. To transform fear into a teacher, begin by recognizing that fear only exists where knowledge is missing. When you do not understand something, the mind fills the empty space with doubt, worst-case scenarios, and imagined threats. But as soon as you face the fear directly, you bring attention into the darkness, and the darkness begins to disappear. Think of a room that has been dark for many years. The moment you turn on the light, confusion becomes clarity, and uncertainty becomes understanding. Fear works exactly the same way. When you bring presence, breath, and awareness to it, it cannot remain what it once was. The mind has a habit of creating stories around fear. It tells you, you are not ready, you might fail, others will judge you, or you don't have what it takes. These stories grow stronger the more you avoid them. Every time you walk away from fear, you confirm to your own mind that fear is real and powerful. But when you move toward fear, when you take even one step forward, the story begins to lose its authority. The mind realizes that the fear was built from imagination, not truth, and once you see through the illusion, your courage becomes deeper, more natural, and unshakable. Every human being carries an inner threshold. This threshold is the limit of your comfort, the edge of what feels safe. On one side of the threshold is who you currently are. On the other side is who you are capable of becoming. Fear is the guardian of that threshold. It stays at the border, testing your willingness to grow. Many people are stuck because they believe the guardian is an enemy. But if you choose to bow to it, to learn from it, to understand what it tries to show you, it becomes a guide. It reveals exactly where you must train, exactly where you must evolve. There is a moment that always arrives before growth, the moment of hesitation. The mind pauses, your breath changes, your heart beats faster. In that moment, you have a choice. You can step back into safety, or you can step forward into possibility. If you step back, the fear strengthens. The next time it will be bigger. But if you step forward, even a little, the fear weakens and your confidence grows. This is how transformation happens, not through sudden dramatic changes, but through repeated decisions to move forward even while fear is present. Fear can become your greatest mentor when you begin asking the right questions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this fear trying to teach me?" Instead of asking, "How do I escape this feeling?" ask, "How can I grow through this feeling?" The moment you shift the question, your relationship with fear changes. It no longer feels like a barrier. It becomes a message, a signal, a lesson, and lessons are valuable. Lessons shape you. Lessons strengthen you. Lessons build a deeper understanding of yourself and the world. Some fears teach you patience. Some fears teach you discipline. Some fears teach you courage. Some fears teach you humility. Some fears teach you clarity, and some fears teach you who you really are. When you learn to approach fear with curiosity instead of resistance, the mind stops fighting. The body relaxes, the breath deepens. You give yourself space to observe what is actually happening. Most of the time, you discover that fear is just an energetic response, a sensation in the body, and not a real threat. When you stay with the sensation rather than escaping it, something extraordinary happens. The sensation begins to dissolve. And when the sensation dissolves, your understanding expands. You realize that fear was never there to break you. It was there to awaken you. There is a quiet strength that grows inside you each time you face your fear. At first, the strength is small, like a flame in the wind. But with each act of courage, the flame becomes steadier. You begin trusting yourself more. You stop doubting your ability. You stop relying on external validation. Fear becomes something familiar, not something that controls you, but something that you can navigate with calmness and awareness. Transformation is not about eliminating fear. It is about changing your relationship with it. When fear arises, greet it with stillness. Observe where it shows up in the body. Notice the breath. Feel your heartbeat. Let the fear speak. Let it reveal the part of you that is ready to grow. And then step forward with intention. This is how fear becomes a teacher. This is how you move from limitation to expansion. Every great transformation begins with a moment of courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move despite it. If you wait for fear to disappear before taking action, you will wait forever. But if you act with fear present, the fear will begin to dissolve. This is the true path of growth. This is how you become stronger than the thoughts that try to hold you back. This is how you step into the fullest expression of who you are destined to be. Fear becomes powerful only when the mind is left without direction. When you do nothing, the mind begins to create its own stories, its own dangers, its own illusions. In stillness without purpose, fear grows. It expands in the empty spaces of hesitation, in the moments where you delay action, in the places where doubt is allowed to breathe. But the moment you step forward, even with uncertainty, the spell breaks. Fear cannot survive when you are in motion. Purposeful action cuts through the layers of imagination and brings your attention back into reality, where you are stronger, clearer, and more capable than your mind wants you to believe. The human mind is built to protect you, but in its need to keep you safe, it often exaggerates danger. It shows you shadows and convinces you they are threats. It offers you thoughts like, "What if this goes wrong?" or "What if I fail?" or "What will others think?" The moment you choose to dwell on these thoughts, fear tightens its grip, but action interrupts this cycle. Action shifts the energy. Action tells the mind, "I am not here to hide. I am here to move." The truth is that fear needs time to grow. It needs hesitation. It needs your attention. When you act quickly with clarity, fear does not have the space to settle inside you. Imagine standing at the edge of cold water. The longer you stand there overthinking, the colder it seems. The harder it becomes to take the step. But if you walk straight in without questioning, the shock disappears and the body adapts. Life works the same way. The longer you wait, the more the mind creates obstacles. But the moment you step, the resistance dissolves. The action becomes the liberation. Purposeful action is not about being fearless. It is about being aligned. It means deciding what matters to you and moving in that direction, even when fear whispers in your ear. When your purpose becomes stronger than your fear, the fear loses its authority. It becomes noise, not a command. And slowly, through repetition, the mind learns a new pattern. Whenever fear appears, you move. This rewires the entire inner system. Fear no longer signals danger. It signals opportunity. It signals growth. It signals a moment where your inner strength is being invited to rise. Action teaches the mind discipline. When you take consistent steps, the mind begins to trust you. It no longer doubts your capability. It no longer invents unnecessary threats. It begins to calm down because you have shown, again and again, that you can handle discomfort, that you can walk through uncertainty, that you can stand inside fear without being controlled by it. The body follows the mind, but the mind can also follow the body. When the body moves forward, the mind eventually catches up and becomes steady. There is a simple truth that many overlook. Fear exists in imagination, not in movement. Every fear you have ever experienced came from a thought, something that might happen, something that could go wrong, something that exists in the future. But when you take action, you enter the present moment, and in the present moment, fear has very little power. It cannot live where your attention is fully engaged. It cannot influence you when you are focused on doing instead of thinking. Action brings you into reality, and reality is rarely as frightening as the stories created by the mind. Some people wait for confidence before they act, but confidence is born from action, not the other way around. A person becomes confident because they have acted many times, failed many times, learned many times, and continued moving. Confidence is a memory the body carries, a memory of survival, of resilience, of taking steps even while shaking. If you wait for confidence to appear first, you will remain stuck. But if you act now, confidence will grow naturally, silently, one small step at a time. Purposeful action also cultivates clarity. The path becomes clearer when you walk on it. Many people stand still, waiting for perfect understanding before moving. But clarity is born through experience, not through thinking. When you act, you receive feedback. You learn what works and what doesn't. You adjust, you evolve. Every step forward brings you more understanding than 100 thoughts. Action is the greatest teacher of them all. There will always be a moment where the mind tries to convince you to wait, to delay, to reconsider. This moment is the test. If you obey that hesitation, you strengthen the fear. But if you walk through it even gently, you strengthen your inner power. Over time, the mind begins to recognize that hesitation is not a stopping point, it is a signal to move. The moment you feel resistance is the moment you take a step. This simple practice will change everything. Action does not have to be dramatic. It can be small, simple, almost invisible from the outside. What matters is not the size of the step, but the direction of the step. One small action every day builds a momentum that fear cannot stop. Small actions become habits, and habits become strength. Strength becomes identity. Identity becomes freedom. This is the path to mastery, not through giant leaps, but through consistent forward motion. When you choose action over fear, you reclaim your inner authority. You stop living as a prisoner of your thoughts. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You stop allowing doubt to dictate your choices. You step into a new relationship with life, a relationship where you are the one who decides, the one who moves, the one who creates. This is how fear loses its power. This is how you build courage. This is how you transform your mind into a tool that serves you instead of controls you. Every step you take toward your fear becomes a step toward your freedom. And freedom is not found in avoiding discomfort. It is found in meeting it with awareness, with breath, with calmness, and with movement. When you act with purpose, you remind the mind of its true position. It is not the master, it is the servant. And when the mind serves your purpose instead of your fear, you step into a life that is powerful, disciplined, and deeply alive.